Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Hope you are fine and doing well. I am Madhila Hatak teaching you English. During the last two lectures on grammar, we discussed a sentence, its two parts, its kinds and types in detail. From now onward, we will talk about various parts that a sentence is usually made up of, which are called the parts of speech. It is natural to ask as to why do we take so much pains in learning these parts of speech. The answer to this question is very simple. These parts of speech are called the building blocks of a sentence, very much like our body, which is a combination of many parts like hands, eyes, ears, nose, and head, etc. And every part has its relevant function to perform. Similarly, the parts of speech we are going to learn here are governed by different rules. We need to get well familiar with all these rules before we head to write, read, speak, or listen effectively in English. So, the first part we are dealing with in this lecture is a noun. We have certain objectives that we must be able to achieve at the end of this lecture. And the first objective over here is that the students should be able to know about what is a noun and what are its various kinds. They should know about the function and position of a noun in a sentence. They should be able to point out mistakes in writing, listening, reading, and speaking. They should feel more confident in the use of a noun. So, now we proceed to the main topic, which is about what is a noun. You may have heard different definition about a noun, but the definition we are going to deal with here has been given in detail, and you should concentrate upon each and every sentence you are listening or reading over here. I hope you will feel the difference after listening to the lecture and giving a close view to the presentation. In order to understand what a noun is, the most simple explanation is that a noun is a word which is used to refer to a person, place, or thing. So, by thing, here we mean an item, an event, a quality, a quantity, an action, a state of being or feelings. The noun is an integral part of the English language. In fact, you cannot make a sentence without it. By understanding their use and the rules surrounding them, you will be able to form grammatically correct sentences. This means that every sentence you create will feature a noun, making a noun the most important aspect within the English grammar. It is clear from the definition that it is the name given to a person, it is the name given to a place or to a thing. About thing, as I told you, It is a name given to an item or an event. Event means like Christmas, Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha. A quality. It is a name given to a quality or a name given to a quantity or an action or a state of being. A state of being over here means the feelings. For example, you are happy, you are depressed. These are, you are amazed. These are the feelings. So these are the different name given to different things. In the second part of this definition, you can see that you are informed about noun as an integral part, the most important part of English language. Here the writer also tells you that you cannot make a sentence in the absence of a noun. So a noun is the most important part of a sentence. You cannot create a sentence which is lacking in noun. From the definition, it can be clearly and easily deduced that it is the name given to a quality or an idea. Kindness, which is a quality, bravery, a quality, cowardice, quality, cruelty, you can say an idea. It is the name given to an action. Running is an action, eating, working, playing. These are used as noun. For example, you say running is good for health. So running occupies the position of a noun in a sentence. Kindness is a great quality. It is the name of a state or an event. For example, you say happiness is a blessing of God. Depression, Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha. So these are state, happiness and depression, these are state of being or feelings. An event, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, these are event. A person, it may be the name of a person. For example, we say the Prime Minister, Sister, Boy, Barack Obama. These are persons. It may be something like a table, dog, plate, movie. It can be the name of a place. For example, we can say beach, Mount Everest, kitchen, Australia. So here the definition gets completed. Now we move next to how a noun can be used in a sentence to perform different function. Sometimes we call it the subject of a sentence, sometimes we call it the object of a sentence, sometimes it is given the name of an object complement, subject complement, as an adjective, as a possessive, as in a positive, as a prepositional object. So these are the different position that a noun occupies in an English sentence. So it is they are called the function points of a noun in a sentence. These are the different function, different roles a noun perform in a sentence. Let us see how does a noun get these different names in a sentence. And the first one is a subject. It is used as a subject in a sentence. About the subject you have learnt in the earlier lecture that a subject is that part of a sentence that it does something or we say something about it. So each sentence that we speak or write must feature a subject, and this will always be a noun. So it must feature a subject and this always be a noun. It must contain a subject and that subject is always a noun. When we talk about the subject, we refer to the place, person or thing. which completes the action. Action means the verb within the sentence. Look at the following example. Zaryab Khatak learns English quickly. The ball is still bouncing on the ground. In these sentences, if you look at the underlined words, they are called the subject of these sentences respectively. Zaryab Khatak and the ball. So this one is doing something, and we say something about the ball. So according to the very definition of a subject, it does something in a sentence or we say something about it. So they are noun. Zaryab Khatak is a noun, the ball is a noun. So in these sentences, the underlined parts Zaryab Khatak and the ball are respectively the subjects of these sentences, which are both nouns. So from this explanation you can easily get the idea that a noun is used as a subject of a sentence. Now if you look at this part as an object, it can be used as an object as well. So a noun can also be used as an object of a sentence. When it is used as an object of a sentence, usually the action takes place upon it. So it can be seen from the definition. A noun can also be used as an object of a sentence. This can be either as a direct object, which is the noun that is on the receiving end of the action that was performed by the subject, or an indirect object, which is a noun that is a recipient of the direct object. So here you need to understand what is a direct object and what is an indirect object. Direct object, these words are very important. On the receiving end, it means when a noun is a direct object, it receives the action. When it is an indirect object, the direct object gives benefit to the indirect object. It means that indirect object get the benefits of the direct object. The action takes place upon the direct object and the indirect object gets its benefit. The one more clear indication to differentiate between a direct object and indirect object. An indirect object, if it is dropped from the sentence, it doesn't affect the meaning of that sentence. A direct object cannot be dropped. If it is dropped, the whole sentence structure is destroyed. So let us take a look at some example of this. For example, we say Sarah opened the door. Sarah gifted Zarar a pen. Sarah opened the door. So this is the action, and this action has taken place upon the door. So this door is the direct object. We doesn't say here direct object, it is only an object. If there had been two objects, then it was compulsory to name one object as direct object and the other is indirect object, as you can see in the second example. Sarah gifted Zarar a pen. So the action has directly taken place upon the pen and the benefit goes to Zarar. So the one that receives the benefit of direct object is called indirect object. If this one is dropped, the sentence will still retain its meaning. For example, Sarah gifted a pen. Zarar has been dropped, but if a pen is dropped, the sentence will not be in a position to retain its meaning. Sarah gifted Zarar. We need something. We want to know something else about this action. Sarah gifted Zarar. So there is a question in our mind. What she gifted. So the action word need a thing to complete its action, which is direct object. In these sentences, the underlined words, the door, a pen, and zarar are direct and indirect object respectively. The door and a pen are direct objects, and zarar is indirect object. So nouns once again being used is the object of the sentence. From this explanation, you can easily conclude that a noun can also be used as an object of a sentence. The next position wherein a noun can be used is an object complement. A noun can be used as an object complement, and this usually occurs immediately after the object, where it is required to complete the meaning of the sentence. Look at these examples. We elected Imran Khan the Prime Minister. She named her daughter Fatima. Ali painted his car red. So these underlined words, as you can see, they are nouns, and they are over here used as object complement. We call them object complement because they are required by these objects: Imran Khan, her daughter, his car. They are the objects of these sentences respectively. The Prime Minister is a requirement of Imran Khan. Fatima is requirement of her daughter. Red is requirement of his car. If the Prime Minister is dropped, Fatima is dropped, or red is dropped, the meaning of the sentence is completely destroyed, totally destroyed. The sentences, to some extent, you can say, they lose their senses. They cannot be called as sentences. So we cannot say we elected Imran Khan. Imran Khan, which is an object of elected, requires something more to say about it. That something more that we say about Imran Khan is usually a noun, which is called object complement. We call it object complement because it completes. Object complement means because it completes the meaning of the object. In the absence of this complement, which completes the meaning of the object, the sentence remains incomplete. It will not give its full sense. So she named her daughter Fatima. She named her daughter. If this part is removed, this complement is removed from the object. She named her daughter. So there will always be a question in your mind. She named her daughter what? Like we elected Imran Khan what? Ali painted his car how? Or we need to say something. Painted his car. We need to say something. We need to know something about this object, about this noun. So that's why we call them as object complement, because they complete the meaning of the object. In the absence of these object complements, the meaning of the sentence will remain intact. The next very important role that a noun plays in a sentence is a subject complement. So it completes the meaning of a subject, like we saw in the case of an object. Here it was completing the meaning of an object, but here you will see that noun is completing the meaning of a subject. In the absence of this, very much like an object complement, subject complement is also very integral part of sentence. If it is removed, if it is absent, if it is not there, the sentence remains incomplete. So a noun can be used as a subject complement, and this usually occurs when using a linking verb. So this is a very important part. When a linking verb is used, after a linking verb, it usually happens that we need a subject complement, such as seem, appear, look, become, are, to be. To be over here means helping verbs, as, or, am, was, were, has, have, shall, will, shall. These are called helping verbs. To be, they are collectively called to be. To be means helping verbs. An example of this is the sentence: Zonera is an intelligent girl. Zara looks happy today. One thing you need to remember, keep in mind here, that a subject complement can be a noun, it can be a noun phrase, or it can be an adjective. For example, in the first sentence, Zonera is. If we stop the sentence over here, do you think it will be a meaningful sentence? I cannot say the sentence is complete. Zonera is an incomplete sentence. You need to say something else about Zonera. So Zonera is an intelligent girl. This part, an intelligent girl, is called a noun phrase. It is a noun phrase, and this girl is the head word of this noun phrase. So that's why we call it a noun phrase. Girl is the head word of this noun phrase. Intelligent, it is used as an adjective with this girl, and an is an article with the intelligent, which is requirement of this noun. So the whole phrase is called a noun phrase. So a subject complement can be a noun phrase. It can be a noun. For example, we can say Zonera is a girl. If we drop this part of the sentence, this adjective over here used as an adjective with the girl. Or we can say Zonera is intelligent. So Zonera is a girl, it will be a subject complement. Zonera is intelligent, adjective. Intelligent is an adjective. So intelligent is a subject complement, and this whole is also a subject complement. I am repeating this idea once again, that subject complement can be a single noun, it can be an adjective, or it can be a noun phrase. We can say Zonera is a girl, Zonera is intelligent, Zonera is an intelligent girl. Look at the second example. Zara looks happy today. If we drop this happy, if we write the sentence up to looks, it will be an incomplete sentence. It will require something to write about Zara. If we do not write that requirement of the Zara, which is the subject, Zonera is the subject, and these words were the requirement of Zunaira. Zara is the subject and this happy is the requirement of Zara. So what is requirement of the subject is called subject complement. What was requirement of the object was called object complement. So Zara looks, we cannot say Zara looks, Zara looks. We will have to write the next word, Zara looks happy. Until you write this word happy, the sentence will remain incomplete. So Zara looks happy. Today, this is an adverb, this is another part of speech. So the nouns girl and happy are called the subject complement as they complete the sense meaning of the sentence. The next part, when it is used as an adjective, a noun, as you can see over here, a noun can be used as an adjective. A noun may also be used as an adjective in some cases as well. Consider the following examples. That man is our English teacher. We are college students now. Ours is a Muslim society. So English, college, Muslim, they are noun, but they are used with another noun as an adjective to qualify its meaning. For example, that man is our teacher. You can also say, but you are modifying this word, this noun, this word by using English as an adjective. You are adding something into the meaning of this teacher and to the meaning of this word, which is a noun itself. So one noun is being qualified by another noun. Students, we are students now. So college is which is itself a noun, is adding something into the meaning of another noun. College students. Muslim, which is a noun, is adding something into the meaning of a society, which is also a noun. So ours is a Muslim society, college students, English teacher. So over here you can see a noun is once again used as an adjective. And the sixth part is a possessive. When using a possessive noun, in other words, a noun which is used to denote possession of something, an apostrophe should be used. For example, these are the baby's toys. So here a noun is used as a possessive. The government built a men's club last year. So here the noun is used as a possessive. Possessive means to show the possession of something. These toys belongs to the baby. This club belong to the men's. She took admission in girls' college. When a noun is already in plural form, we just write the comma, put the comma of the apostrophe. We do not write the full apostrophe. We drop the s if the noun is already a plural noun. So she took admission in a girls' college. We do not write the other s of the apostrophe. So you can see babies, men's and girls, they are used as a possessive noun. When a noun is used as in a positive, it is another position where it can be seen at a different position. For example, when serving as in a positive, the noun will come directly after another noun is a way of defining it further. Here it also play the role of an adjective but in a different way. So consider the following examples. My mother Alice is a nurse. Mr. Khan, the actor, is from India. Shahid Afridi, the cricketer, has got retirement. So my mother Alice. Alice is here used as in a positive. It is qualifying, it is explaining this noun, which is my mother is also a noun, Alice is also a noun, Mr. Khan is a noun, the actor is a noun, Shahid Afridi is a noun, the cricketer is a noun. So one noun is explaining, qualifying another noun, but in a different way. So it is like more like an adjective, but in a different structure, qualifying another noun. This kind of use of a noun is called an appositive. As a prepositional, so a noun can also be used as a prepositional object or object of a preposition. A noun can also occur as an object of a preposition in a sentence. Look at these examples. Move the plate towards the baby. I shared this video with my students. We must learn this lesson by heart. So these are the preposition towards, with, by, and these prepositions are followed by baby, students, heart. The and my, the which is an article, my which is called determiner. We will learn about it in a lecture later on. But over here you can see that baby which is a noun, common noun, students, common noun, heart, common noun, they are used as an object of these preposition. So we saw that a noun can also be used as an object of a preposition. I hope you got the main points of this lecture. This is the end of this lecture. If you carry any question in your mind, do forward it or write it in the comment box.